Hello there. Welcome to Conversations with OLA. My name is Minerva Perez, and I'm the Executive Director of OLA of Eastern Long Island. OLA is a Latino-focused nonprofit that is committed to the East End of Long Island entirely in the areas of education, advocacy, and the arts, and we are helping to build a healthier, safer, and more equitable East End. Today, I have a guest with us today who is Andres Espinosa, and he is actually OLA's operations manager, and he's here with us today because I'd like to make sure that with Conversations with OLA, we are sharing some of the bounty of our East End residents, who they are, what they do, how they're committed to the East End, and what brought them here, what work they're doing now, and where do they see the future of the East End going in all ways that they can share. So with Andres Espinosa, I am going to start off some questions. First of all, I want to thank you for being here.
Thank you for the invitation, Minerva.
Sure. And I do want to let everyone know, remind our audiences that are watching right now, that essentially these are conversations. I like to do them in a way that we don't plan it out too much. There is no preparation. There is none of that. It's basically live. So I want to thank you for being game for this approach.
All right. You're welcome. I'm
All
ready.
Right. So Andres, tell us a little bit more about, tell us about your background. I know you've got a business background. You've got a master's from Tulane University. Where have you come from to be here on the East End of Long Island? Share a bit of your story.
Well, thank you, Minerva. I'm from Colombia, originally. I moved to United States 6 years ago for the second time. I would say like maybe 12, 14 years ago, I had the opportunity to live here with my family. I have 2 children and my wife, Adriana. So we moved for the first time 13 years ago. Then we went back. I got a job in business, and we decided to move back 6 years ago. And for many reasons,
So now you're in East Hampton.
Now we are in East Hampton.
Okay,
yeah.
Awesome. So your background in business, you a couple of the companies that you worked for, one of them was Carl Zeiss, a German company. You were working for them. What were you doing there?
Yes, I worked for them for about six years, and I was doing sales and marketing pretty much, and developing their businesses in different countries. And one of those countries were Colombia, and then and traveling a lot, across South America, Peru, Ecuador, Panama, Central America as well. And then I was moved to Mexico to continue with the role and help the organization to develop that country as well. But it was pretty much sales and marketing all the time.
Yeah, okay, well, wonderful. But then with your interest in that, you also had the opportunity to get your master's degree from Tulane University. How was that?
Yeah, everything started when I lived in Guatemala. When I lived in Guatemala, I started doing my MBA, Master of Business Administration. And I heard about the program with Tulane because these 2 universities, they have like a partnership. So I enrolled to this program. I finished my MBA with Francisco Marroquín University in Guatemala, and then I started the program with a Master of Management with Tulane University, and I finished in 2014.
2014, wonderful. And so you were out here doing some work with various companies out here, and then I got to learn about you, and I was very, very excited through different mutual friends that we had to kind of see about the potentiality of bringing you on to OLA as operations manager, given your background. And then certainly got to know about your interest in the community and was struck by how much care you have for this community that is now yours. You have your family here, your wife here. And tell me about this switch, because you made it very clear to me that you said, you know what, I have a background in business. I've been doing this kind of work in marketing, but doing work in a nonprofit capacity and working with the community is very important for me. And share some of your reasons for kind of switching lanes a little bit from the very strong sort of business community, for-profit world to the nonprofit world. What was your thought process there?
Well, yeah, I would say that the curiosity about working with the community started maybe when I was actually doing my bachelor degree because I had the opportunity to work with and to support like different communities, providing support, education, and all of that. So it was kind of like very nice. I felt very fortunate to have the opportunity to do this work. So I always said that was the first time I had the opportunity to like start doing some community work with the community. But when I moved out here, and I started like making friends, I started noticing some needs in our community, and in different aspects.
Sure,
you know,
share.
like
Talk about it. Talk about it.
communication, for example. I know that a lot of people, for example, struggle with, there's some communication skills to have access to different products, different services, to go to a supermarket, to get a driver license, to like different things, just in general. So I started seeing those things, and I started thinking that it would be nice to help my community or do something for me for my community. So that's how everything like started like switching in my brain.
Yeah.
And also I had I did some work in hospitality and restaurants and also in hotels. So those like I started like developing more like those personal and customer skills. So I kind of liked it, I feel like very, very attractive, about like being more in contact with people, being more in contact with my community, like helping my community, like in different things, in different aspects.
Yeah, and I think what was a great kind of combination was the fact that we like to see OLA as even though it's a nonprofit, that it's run with some for-profit models in terms of how we are very careful with our finances, how we want to look at our community, whether they're the partnerships that we develop, whether it's the client base that we're working with, community members in crisis or not, volunteer base. How do we work with people in a way that allows them to feel fully supported and respected no matter what's going on, that we're not doing anyone a favor. We're doing a job, and we believe in the mission of our organization, but you bring that whole other level that I find is very important for us to have. And then also just sort of the organizing part of things. So you're just making a lot of things make sense on the back end as operations manager is extremely important. So it's great work. But I think also you had early on as a fellow parent out there, kind of seeing the needs that our young people have. I mean, there's more work that you're committing to with our organization to help us grow youth-focused work. How are we going to develop and build better support systems, both for teens and for parents. So speak a bit as a parent in general, talking to other parents about what you feel, because the work that we do, even though it's Latino focused, doesn't mean it's only for Latinos. So some of the strengths and the ideas that you're bringing to us and that you're helping us support are things that other parents are going to benefit from as well that are not Latino parents. But in terms of, early on, I'll say that you brought help to connect with East Hampton Police Department to create a Narcan training in Spanish. So talk about maybe some of the needs that you've seen around sort of parents and teens, and maybe a little bit about that training.
Yeah, and we all know that we are going through difficult times, with COVID, with a lot of things happening these days. Social media, all of that is just out of control. So as a parent, and I remember when we live in Colombia, we live in a very warm city. So my children, they had the opportunity to, for example, to practice year-round sports, or just to be out. I think that when you compare about living out here, you see a huge difference. Just with the fact that your children can not do the same activities like they used to do before, and the next thing that those situations or those things are affecting their mental health, for example. So and then you start adding more things. So as a parent, we always see a huge need in, for example, about having like those spaces where children can do like different things, like sports, like arts, like like culture-related activities. So I think that's when I see, or where I see a huge opportunity, you know, about like working for OLA and also supporting the organization in all of these projects that we are running right now, and just continuing doing that work.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's a great commitment that you have, and kind of what you offer in terms of your approach, not as you know, the only expert. I mean, the parents that are out there, we try to feel that we're doing the best job we can do, but I think having different perspectives on how to be a dad, how to interact with your kids, and then how to also interact with fellow parents, because there are fellow parents that are also Spanish speakers that don't feel they have the same access to question some of the same things. I mean, the Narcan training that you made happen wasn't because there was some higher use of opioid drugs in Latino, with Latino members of the community, but because it's equally a concern for parents. Parents don't know how these opioids are ending up with their kids. They don't know what other kinds of drugs their kids are using. And the thing is that they just need to be aware. And the conversations around that, it's not to turn parents into police, but it's also just to have an awareness of that, because there are younger and younger ages where kids are having access to things, and it's important to understand that and have those open conversations and dialogue with children. Then you've got children that are living kind of with 2 feet in different cultures. They have their parents who are foreign-born, potentially, and these kids are more American than anybody else in terms of maybe barely even speaking Spanish, or, which is always not a great thing, but they have kind of a difficulty in navigating both of these worlds. So you as a parent who can help other parents kind of understand, well, listen, these are the questions that you should be asking, and it shouldn't just be that you find out your kid's smoking pot so that's the end of the world. No, it's a conversation, you know, and so I really appreciate what you're able to bring to the table and what you're willing to do going forward.
And that was a really nice meeting or workshop that we put together with the East Hampton town.
Yeah, Sergeant Alversa
With Sergeant
helped
Alversa.
to lead that.
If I remember well, we put together maybe 20 parents.
About 20 parents.
And we have a Spanish interpretation as well. So it was a very nice space for, as you say, for parents to have more information and have the tools, no, to just keep growing their children the right way.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So what I wanted to talk a little bit about was your current role as operations manager. Of course, in any nonprofit, there are at least 15 different hats that we're all wearing all at the same time. It's like take one off, put one on. But you are also helping to lead 2 very important efforts. One is ERAP, which is Emergency Rent Assistance Program. That is money that came from the federal treasury through New York State and then through the county. And then OLA is contracted along with 2 other organizations, Nassau Suffolk Law Services and FSL, Family Service League, to make sure that people in the East End have access to this support for rent, back rent, and whatnot. So you're helping to lead that, and you're also helping to lead efforts through a CDC Foundation grant that we have for vaccines, for vaccine information, education, access, and all that. Another guest that we'll be having on the show is someone from Stony Brook University, Southampton. She'll be talking about some of the work that we've been doing with vaccines. So let's focus on that for a minute. Some of the vaccine efforts that you've been involved in from the very beginning. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, and even before we started with the CDC Foundation grant, OLA, you know, OLA we were doing some was doing some work with vaccines already, like trying to increase access or increasing access to the community to have the vaccine, to get vaccinated. And the first event that we have was in East Hampton, and then we have the grant with the CDC Foundation. And basically what we have been doing with this grant is just increasing access, not only to information, but also to these sites and connecting people to get vaccinated. I can probably say that we have vaccinated and connected people, around 4,500 people to vaccines, which is
and that's
a lot
over
of people
30 pods, right? 30 different pods.
Yes, that's close to 30 vaccine pods. And not only that, I mean, we also have built very strong relationships with local organizations, restaurants, delis, towns, law enforcement, schools, and the list just go on and on. You know, I think that's the most valuable thing for me about this project is all the resiliency and all the relationship that we are building with local organizations to support our community.
Absolutely, because we're showing that, you know, having the grant helps us. Of course, we were doing this work before the grant, but we're dedicated to this, you know, and so it's also about health equity. You know, we were learning that early on at the onset of the pandemic, that really the East End wasn't part of the conversation yet in terms of where the vaccine was flowing out to. So we got involved very quickly with the governor's office to start pushing for vaccines to be accessible on the East End of Long Island. At the same time that East Hampton was doing some work on that as well, but it was just the beginning stages. So the first pod we had was in Most Holy Trinity, and that was with Stony Brook, but that was directly in relation to our conversations with the governor's office. So I think these relationships that now we're able to develop, that you're developing, you know, they're going to be existing with us long after, and I hope to heaven that that's pretty soon, that we're not even thinking about the pandemic anymore. But those relationships with Stony Brook, with Northwell Health, with the delis, with CME, with the school districts, because now, of course, we're doing a lot of work with school districts to help pods happen in schools for the child vaccine. And then just, again, just connecting the fabric of health equity. You know, it's an ongoing conversation about Latino parent connection and engagement, and making sure that school districts understand that parents want to be engaged, that sometimes there are barriers that are kind of unwittingly in the road, and that we can work together to kind of smooth those barriers out so that parents have as much access and information to make sure that their children, and therefore all the children of the school district, are thriving. But this collaboration, partnership is what it's all about. So you being on board and having kind of the business background that you have and the hospitality background that you have, it's really been a way for us to open up some avenues that we wouldn't have had otherwise. So I'm excited for that, and your commitment to that. Share a little bit about some of the vision that you have. You know, we've got a little bit of time left. So you're here now. You've got kids that are doing really well right now. You've got an amazing family. Share some vision that you have for where you see the direction going. I mean, maybe some help that OLA is doing. It doesn't have to just be about OLA. You know, just in general, where do you see sort of a happy place that we can get to with health and safety and equity and whatever else you feel that the East End needs more of?
Oh wow, that's a
big question.
That's a big no, that's a big question. But I think that what we're doing with OLA, and not only with OLA, I would say that this job has impacted me in a way that is also changing, or have changed my mindset, and the way that I'm raising my kids, and the way that I supporting my community. So it's been just a whole change. And when I see all the work that we're doing, it's like just putting like one stone like on top of the other. You know, like we're building something big. You know, we're building a base, and we're doing that little by little, one at a time. It's gonna take time, yes, but everything that OLA is doing, everything that we are doing now, that we have the opportunity to impact lives, people, community, our own lives, then I see the future. And for me, what I see in the future is that people can have, my community can have the same access, equal access to information, to services, to products, to everything. And I picture something like, and probably I said this in one of the meetings that you invited me, the first meeting we have with the board, of OLA, and it's about having a house. Having a house, because that's when I see the connection that I can have with my culture, with my roots. It's like having my home away from home. And I think that that's the space that we have to create for all the community. If you're from Ecuador, from Mexico, from Jamaica, from Colombia, from wherever part of the world that you are coming from, when you have something that you can be connected with your home, that's something that is a dream for you as an immigrant.
Yeah, thank you. Wow. That is a dream. I mean, it is a dream for OLA to eventually have a home, a way for people to feel that connection and feel a sense of belonging. A lot of work that we do with youth, we do teen empowerment workshops in school districts, from Riverhead to Southold to East Hampton and everywhere in between that we possibly can. And we talk with youth, and a recurring theme that's not that positive is sort of this feeling of being disconnected. And teens in general have that sense of really being in this weird world of what's happening with my body, what's happening, you know, I don't like what people are telling me what to do. But with Latino teens, that whether they're born here or not, there's a sense of not belonging. And it's a terrible danger, because what then you're doing is developing youth that don't have roots. They don't feel that they have roots. And if you don't have roots, then you don't have accountability. And not just to yourself, to act right, to do the right thing, but also to have a connection to your own dreams and to develop and build what you want to see in a positive sense of the space around you, and inclusive of everybody. You know, you're Shinnecock, you're black, you're white, you're all of your peers. You know, you want to build something strong and positive and bring your best to the table. Well, how do you do that if you don't feel that you belong? So, you know, the work that you're helping us to develop with our youth programs, with our scholarship program, which we have, those things are critical. And specifically you as a parent. One thing I want to ask as well, we get a few minutes left, is that as a Latino parent, I'm going to put you on the spot here.
More?
More on the spot than you already were. As a Latino parent out here, because we're doing this conversation in English, which is very important to point out. I'll do the English conversations, and then Sandra Dunn, our associate director, she'll do the conversations in Spanish with different guests. So we're doing this in English, which means that there's an English-speaking audience that we have right now, whether they're Latino or not, it doesn't matter. But I would like you to share, from a perspective as a Latino parent, what would you like people to really understand about Latino parents? And I know you don't speak for everybody, but you speak for yourself. But there oftentimes can be these stereotypes that people put together. And they could be stereotypes from, like, you know, one person from one Spanish-speaking country might feel about Colombians, or a non-Latino could feel about Latinos, or African-American, whatever. I hate it all. But what is a certain thing that you would like to share, that you would like to just say, you know, from your perspective as a Latino parent, that, you know, this is something that you feel that not enough people really understand from your perspective as a Latino parent? What would you like to share?
Well, you mentioned something like that I think is very important, and is the language. Is the language, and I have to, maybe sometimes in my life, you know, since after we move up here, something that maybe I encounter, or maybe some things that I face is, so when you talk to people, and you don't speak their native language, you feel like, sometimes you feel like, oh, there is a barrier, you know? Or maybe because the other person is not understanding what you're saying, and they don't want to be rude and maybe say something like, hey, I don't have a clue of what you say, so repeat it again. So, but I think the language is something huge, is something big, and how we feel as a parent, as an immigrant parent, when you move to another country and you don't speak the language perfectly, but you are still able to communicate. So I will invite people who don't speak our language, you know, to don't be afraid to just communicate with us, you know, in a natural way. So it's not necessary to establish a communication process if you don't speak in this case, a perfect English, but you are able to communicate. You're still able to communicate. You know, there is body language, there is context, there is ways that you can communicate in order to establish relationships with people. And you see, for example, when you go to a bar, let's say you go to a restaurant, you always see the group of friends. They are from one country or one ethnicity, one group, and then you see some people from the same, and then the same. You know, like you don't see like a group of friends, or sometimes you see it. You know, but I'm talking more like at my age.
Yeah. Okay.
You know, you see now in the schools that more like, you know, there's more mix of people from different countries.
Yeah.
But for example, at my age, you don't see that very like often. You know, you always see like those groups. So it's just invite to people like to be more open to immigrant parents like me. You know, and just don't be afraid to establish relationships. You know, we always have fun stories to tell. We live in beautiful countries. Not everything is about drugs. Not everything is about violence. It's more than that. You know, we have amazing food. We have amazing landscapes. You know, we have amazing cities, and we have a lot of things to share as well.
A lot of great perspectives on things but like you said, the language is, you know, can be a barrier, and but there's still so many things to be communicated through even limited language at first. And I think another message that you kind of embody is that parents, everyone is learning. They want to learn the language of the place that they're living. Everyone's trying to learn English. It's here. They might learn at different paces, but the kind of ways and insights that they have to offer are huge. And like you said, just make the first step. You know, establish that conversation. A new immigrant or a family member or a person here is going to really appreciate it, and they're going to try to do their best to kind of come to the other side and have that fuller conversation. We're going to end this conversation right now. Speaking of which, thank you, Andres. Thank you to the crew at LTV. You're always amazing, and we look forward to seeing you soon. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.